I've reviewed over 732 manuscripts in the last 12 months, and there's one mistake that I keep seeing over and over. It's like clockwork. Authors write their dialogue in this overly descriptive, stiff, and unnatural way. And look, I get it. Dialogue can be tricky. You want it to sound real, to convey emotions, and to move the story forward. But here's the thing, too much description ruins your dialogue. It kills the flow, the tension, and actually the reality of your characters. It is the number one mistake that I see in manuscripts, hands down. And let me explain why. When you add in long descriptions about how someone moves, how they're feeling, or the little details of every conversation, it takes the reader out of the moment. You end up with dialogue that feels more like a shopping list, right? Just a list of thoughts and emotions, and it doesn't feel like a natural exchange. It reads more like you've written an essay, not a story. Here's the main problem with overly descriptive dialogue. It makes the characters sound like they're reading from a script, right? It's like the first rehearsal for a play. It's just robotic because no one knows the lines yet. And so it loses that organic, real-life energy that we crave when we're reading a book. Think about a conversation you've had in the past. Did you pause every sentence to describe your surroundings, or how your hands were shaking, or how your throat tightened? Probably not, because if you did, that would be really weird. And neither should your characters, unless they're in a situation where, for a very specific reason, they need to. Let me give you an example. John cleared his throat nervously, his hands trembling as he reached for the cup of coffee on the table, his heart racing in his chest. "I'm not sure this is a good idea," he said, his voice breaking slightly as he spoke. Now, this is a bit much. We've got a ton of action and description, and it's slowing the dialogue down. We're just getting way too many details about how John is physically feeling and moving. None of it is helping the conversation. It's actually just bogged the whole thing down. So here's how I would fix it. John cleared his throat. "I'm not sure this is a good idea." Simple, direct, focused. The emotion and the tension are still there, but it doesn't weigh the conversation down with all this excess fluff. In order to fix it, you might be wondering, why does this happen? Well, most authors want to pack their dialogue with unnecessary description because they want the reader to feel the tension, to know how the character feels, and to see the scene unfold. But the truth is, you don't have to describe every single thing. Less is more. The dialogue itself can carry and convey all the emotion, but only if you let it. And here's the trick you've been waiting for. You need to trust your readers. You don't actually need to over-explain things. If your character is nervous, the way they speak, their pauses, their tone, that can communicate far more effectively than telling the reader that their hands are trembling or their heart is racing. You don't need to spoon feed them everything. Like I said before, overly descriptive dialogue is just going to make your characters sound robotic. They won't feel real because they're talking like they're in a soap opera, not having a real conversation. You want your characters to sound like real people that you would walk past on the street. Let the core of what they're saying convey the emotion, and it will come through naturally. Going back to John and the dialogue we had already, here's a better example. John shifted in his seat. "I'm not sure this is a good idea." Here we have just a hint of physical action. No need for this whole rundown of his body language. The dialogue alone conveys his uncertainty. Now that you know why this happens, how do you fix this mistake? Well, the first thing is to simplify. Cut out excess description altogether. Focus on what your character would realistically say in the moment. If the scene calls for tension or fear, let it shine through in their tone or word choice. Less is more. Trust me, like I said, give your reader more credit. They're smart enough to pick up on the subtle cues. You don't need to lay it all out for them. A character can be anxious without the reader having to be reminded of this in every sentence. Let me now finish with some quick tips to help you write better dialogue. Keep it natural. Think about how you talk to your friends, to your family, or to the builder that came to fix your fence last week. Keep it simple. Use action sparingly. Don't over-explain what a character is doing unless it adds to the conversation. Be intentional with your words. If a character is nervous, show it through hesitation or short sentences. not by describing their shaking hands. The final thing to ask yourself after every time you write some dialogue, does this description help the dialogue or is it slowing it down? If it's the latter, well then get rid of it because your story will flow so much better. So there you have it. That is the number one mistake we see in manuscripts that get submitted to us, is this overly descriptive dialogue. Cut out the fluff, trust your reader, focus on making your characters sound real, and you'll be amazed at how much more powerful your writing becomes. If you found this helpful, I'm sure YouTube, with its smart algorithm, is recommending another value-packed video of mine in the corner right here. Make sure to check that out.